By the time the house finally goes quiet, everyone in the room already has their own evening script. One person is fully asleep. The other is still twisting around like they're renegotiating the terms of the blanket. The cat has already settled nearby with a look that says, "I'm not here out of affection. I'm here because this setup works." And the dog still hasn't laid down. She stands there, looking at the bed, the people, and the cat who has already mentally claimed half the mattress, and pauses. Because what happens next is a very small decision that tells you a lot. Two humans, and the cat is living like the bedroom was transferred into his name years ago. But a few seconds later, the dog goes to just one person. And that's where it gets interesting. Why is it that in the same home, a dog can get excited to see everyone, play with everyone, beg for snacks from everyone, and still choose to sleep next to only one person night after night? That choice is probably not just about affection. At night, something else matters more. Who makes it easier to relax, stop listening to every little sound, and let the body come out of semi-alert mode? In science, this is often described through the secure base effect, and research from ELTE, Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest, including work by Anna Kiss and colleagues, suggests that a dog's attachment to its owner can function in ways that resemble infant caregiver attachment in humans. In sleep studies using EEG and polysomnography, that same line of research found that being near the owner can affect how dogs sleep. And one interpretation is that the owner's presence helps the dog settle more easily in an unfamiliar setting. If you translate that from lab language into bedroom language, the idea is pretty simple. Next to the right person, the dog's brain is more willing to accept that the shift is over and the night watch has officially ended. And this is where people often make the whole thing a little too human. They assume the dog picked their favorite person. But very often, the dog picked the most predictable one, the one whose movements are familiar, the one who doesn't change sleep rhythm every 10 minutes, the one whose body makes sense at night. Because love is love, but if one person sleeps peacefully while the other suddenly swings sideways across the bed at 3 in the morning like a delivery truck trying to make a U-turn in a narrow driveway, the dog's decision gets a lot easier. That's why a dog can spend the day chasing one person, playing with another, begging food from a third, and still end up sleeping next to the quietest and most predictable one. Not because the others matter less, but because sleep is not a vote for best friend of the year. It's a choice about which conditions make it easiest to fully shut down. But the cat in this scene is not just background decoration. He helps you see that two very different social systems can be operating in the same bedroom at the same time. People love talking about cats as if each one is a tiny independent tenant with commitment issues and deep contempt for the collective. But the real picture is more interesting. In work on feline social behavior linked to Sharon L. Crowell Davis and later reviews on social organization in cats, cats are described as a socially flexible species. They don't have to live in tight groups, but they absolutely can form stable bonds and so-called preferred associates. Those preferred associates are the individuals they choose to be near more often, tolerate more easily, and fight with less than random housemates. So if the cat keeps showing up near the same dog or in the same side of the bed next to the same human, that's part of the home's nighttime map too. The dog is choosing mostly through a sense of safety and ease. The cat is choosing through a much more cat-shaped kind of logic. The cat is not the security guard. The cat is the logistics minister. He's not necessarily looking for protection. He's evaluating the arrangement. If the human is warm, the dog is calm, the blanket is where it should be, and the overall situation does not feel like a small domestic disaster, the minister approves the plan and lies down on top of it. There's also a nice connection here to the 2008 Applied Animal Behavior Study by Netali Fieldstein and Joseph Turkel, which suggested that dogs and cats in the same home can form friendly, readable relationships, especially when they were introduced early. But there's one important detail. If a dog has spent a long time choosing one person and then suddenly starts sleeping by the door, on the floor, or in another room, that isn't always about hurt feelings, and it doesn't automatically mean the bond got weaker. Sometimes the reason is much simpler. It's too warm, too uncomfortable, too noisy, too stressful, or just physically unpleasant. In veterinary discussions of canine cognitive dysfunction and in later writing about senior dogs, changes in sleep habits and resting locations are often treated as possible early clues to aging, discomfort, pain, or other physical changes, not just bad attitude. Age, soreness, joint changes, restless human sleep, a new evening routine, all of these can change a dog's nightly route through the house. So when that pattern shifts, it's usually better to read it carefully than dramatically. Sometimes the dog is not saying, "I don't love you anymore." Sometimes the dog is just saying, "This is not the easiest place for me to sleep now." So when a dog once again steps around half the bed, the cat, and somebody's mildly bruised ego just to lie down next to one specific person, that is not necessarily a popularity contest. Very often, it is simply the quietest, clearest, calmest part of her little nighttime universe. The place where she doesn't have to monitor everything. The place where she doesn't have to be a guard, a companion, a therapist, and a furry alarm system all at once. The place where she can just fall asleep. And the cat? The cat is probably understood all of this for a long time. He just, as usual, prefers not to release an official statement. How does it work in your house? Who always ends up being the secure base, and who acts like the true logistics minister?